You make it, we play it. It's the Mad Love Mix. USJ Radio. This dude shows love and then gets mad about it. Traffic light is in the mix. Follow QSJ on all social media platforms for updates, content, and because I said so.
Some mountains to climb. I made great memories with every mile. Miles and memories, losses and victories. These are how you carve out a dream. Miles and memories, letdowns and opportunities. Never as easy as it seems. No, it's never as easy as it seems. I ventured out west to look for my goal. Spent many years wandering in the dark. Then I began to sing. My desires took wing. Grew from that little spark. Miles and memories, losses and victories. These are how you carve out a dream. Miles and memories, letdowns and opportunities. It's never as easy as it seems. No, it's never as easy as it seems.
Welcome, everybody. This is QSJ Radio's Home to the Unsigned Artists. Please welcome Luanne Hunt. In today's episode, we're going to dive into a world of acclaimed singer-songwriter Luanne Hunt in her latest musical masterpiece, Miles and Memories. With 24 studio albums under her belt, Luanne continues to captivate audiences with her modern country and folk sound, blending traditional melodies with timeless themes and heartfelt sentiments. Her latest album features 7 tracks, including soul-stirring single, music video, The Vice, which we will hear and see later. But Luanne's musical journey doesn't stop there. As an independent superstar, Hall of Fame recording artist, and 5-time Josie Music Award nominee, she's been making waves in the music industry for over 3 decades. With roots deeply embedded in folk music, Luanne felt a calling to return to her origins and craft something truly authentic and unique. As she puts it, the challenge for every recording artist is to create music inspired by your influences, but at the same time bring something fresh and wonderful to the table. And Miles and Memories does exactly that. Praised on a standout amidst the sea of music flooding with the industry today, Luanne's album has garnered attention from critics and fans alike. The folk and rock music blog raved with all the music being released and looking into 2024 brimming with bands and clamoring to be heard. Luanne Hunt stands out with Miles and Memories. Luanne, welcome to the show.
definitely a pleasure. And if you guys didn't know, we had a lot of technical difficulties last week.
And we got through it. We are here today. Well, Luanne, 30 years of doing this thing, there's always a thing. So many changes that have happened, right? By the way, do you hear me well?
Yeah, you're a little soft. I could be a little bit louder.
Okay, let me see what I could do here. You know, my friends tell me I talk a little soft.
Okay, that's a lot better.
My friends tell me.
That's great. Yeah.
Oh, so 30 years doing this it is a lot. But 30 years ago when you wanted to take it serious, what was going on and what was it like when you first started?
Initially I just wanted to learn how to sing because I always wanted to sing growing up and everyone told me that I shouldn't sing.
Wow.
So I was pretty ridiculed. It was brutal actually, if I'm being completely honest. But there was something in me that wanted to sing. So I got married when I was 21 and I grew up in Pennsylvania and the man I married was from California. He was a sports writer. And so I went to California with him and, I just kept thinking, man, I just want to sing. So I wound up taking some classes at the community college and this was back in the 80s. And it was very terrifying because I'm going in there thinking, I don't want to really sing in front of anybody, but yet I don't know what to do. I want to learn. So I took this class and I took it for 2 years actually. And my teacher was very encouraging and that kind of got me started. But along the way, I actually started teaching singing and I had this huge network of students and I was taking them into the studio to record little songs and I was, taking them around all over the place to do shows. And one of my students wanted to sing some original songs. I didn't have any. So I was trying to figure out how to get her original songs. And my husband at the time, he's since passed away, but he was on vacation. And one day he came into the kitchen and he said, I wrote a couple songs for your student. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you wrote songs? Because he didn't write songs. He was a newspaper guy.
Yeah.
Well, he wound up singing these songs. He wrote 2 really good songs into a tape recorder. And I was like, wow, those are good. So I hired a guitar player to come over our house and help us to figure out the chords and everything. And next thing you know, we're in the recording studio. And Steve, my late husband, he wound up writing about 100 songs in a year's time. So many of those songs were fabulous. And I wound up doing a demo album of 7 of those. And we were just over the moon because we were so green. We didn't know anything about making music, but we found a pretty good producer and he helped us. So we had this demo album that was, we thought, wow, this is pretty darn good. So that's what got me my start. And I just kept working at it and I started writing songs at a certain point and one thing led to another and here I am.
Well, big shout out to everybody listening. If you guys are just tuning in, we are here with Luanne Hunt and talking about her starting early and how her late husband, basically wrote her career. Now, I know that we're, here starting off. What happened to your husband? What happened to your late husband?
In 2019, he developed a disease. Well, first we thought it was congestive heart failure, but it was an odd set of circumstances and an odd set of symptoms. And very late in the progression of this disease, I figured it out that it was most likely something called amyloidosis. It's a really rare blood disease. And once the progression of this thing starts, it takes your life very quickly. And we're almost 100% sure that that's what he had, because he had every symptom of it. And they're weird symptoms. They're not common symptoms. So unfortunately, it was too late for him. He was just too weak he would have had to travel like to the Mayo Clinic or somewhere to get tested even for it, because they didn't test for it around where we lived, and he just wasn't up to it. But I said, I believe wholeheartedly that's what he had, because he was too young to have heart failure, and his heart, they did an angiogram, and they said he had the cleanest arteries they'd ever seen,
Yeah.
So when it's like, and he's got heart failure, but this disease attacks all your vital organs and just starts like eating away at them.
Yeah, I know that is probably only going on 5 years, and of course we had the pandemic and a whole bunch, all those things going on. But was the death of your late husband the reason you had to take a break? Because there is a thing where you took a break around that time.
Yeah, honestly, right after he died, I produced this album. It's probably my finest hour. It's called Season of Grace. And the record is all about dealing with the death of someone very close to you. It's not just a spouse, it could be, child, anybody. But anyway, that was my therapy during that time. But I didn't promote that album because I wasn't up to it. I had so many things to do to get my life on track. So I just recorded it. I put it up on Spotify and all that, but I didn't really focus on promoting. It's kind of a shame because it is a spectacular album. And I was doing a few things, but again, there was those few years there where I had to figure out where I was going to live, how I was going to get there, what I was going to do with my life. And there wasn't a whole lot of time, but always I was writing songs. And in the chaos of that, I went to Nashville and I recorded an album there. So, and I didn't promote that one either, but
I guess there was a time where it's safe to say you probably needed your husband to tell you, "Hey, what are you doing?" Right? Oh, so when you found out he had this writing skill and you went ahead and took your lessons, when was your first and not time frame, but when was it that you took your first look at saying, "Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and create an album, and we're gonna do this with some of your songs, and you're gonna teach me how to write." How did that go?
well, after we did that demo album, it was really funny because I had performed some of the songs from it at a big festival back in the 90s. Out in LA, they were trying to kind of copy that festival that they do in Nashville every year. I think it's called CMA Fest or something.
Yeah.
But they were trying to do that in LA. It was called Starfest, I believe. And I performed some of the songs at Starfest. And after the show, this one DJ from the biggest country radio station in Orange County, he came up to my booth and he flipped out over a couple of the songs. And so he started playing my music on his station.
Wow.
From this demo album, And he even had me on one time and played my whole album. He had me on for an hour and he asked me questions and it was a lot of fun, but I was like, wow. So that got me to thinking that, I just need to keep working at this and getting better at it, because I think at some point along my journey, if I make enough of these albums, and they were low budget, believe me, if I make enough of those and I keep working at my craft, I'll work up to where I can produce an incredible album someday and I'll have the funds. So that happened in 2008. I produced an album called Breaking Through. And it was just the dream project because I had incredible musicians on this project. People that, like the keyboard player, for instance, he toured with the Righteous Brothers. And he was beyond what I could have ever dreamed. And my producer, who also played on the album, he's worked with all the bluegrass greats and Alison Krauss and Ralph Stanley and all these people. So I had A-list musicians on this project. And I had wonderful songs. I didn't just use my husband's songs. I found songs from other writers. And yeah, it was just, it was amazing. And there was one song on it called Solace in the Wind that my husband did write. And it did extremely well on the charts. Got a lot of accolades. And that kind of got me motivated to keep plugging away and keep trying to improve what I was doing, you know?
Look, let me tell you, when you are consistent, like the way you've been consistent, I have no doubt in my head that not only was the experience of working with so many of those musicians, the amount of like homage that you probably owed to them. Like they took you in early, they took you very serious early, and 24 albums later, I saw that you have a #1 charting a song here in Iceland now. That's incredible. So congratulations on that. And so if you guys don't know, my first love is folk. Okay. My first love is folk music. And this list of credits for people that are currently on your album with Luciano, is on there. You got, Ibnu Hadi on there on the electric and acoustic guitars, produced and mixed by you. Now this is, a lot of people don't, probably not understanding this. This is all unsigned work, right? You've done this, probably with your own, your own money, your own, vision, no one pressuring you or anything like that. Was this something that you wanted to do, or was there a time that you decided you wanted to knock on the door on some labels?
I was in LA all the early years. And so you really had to be in Nashville if you wanted to knock on label doors. And there was no way that I was going to be going to Nashville. So I realized that I had to do it on my own. But there was a point that I had to define what it was that I wanted out of it. It's like, are you looking to tour? Are you looking to have hit records or what? So I journaled a lot because I was trying to kind of figure out what do I want and identify it. And then I could focus on that goal. And it was a long process of doing it, but I did get the goals that I set out for. And I'm happy that I did it that way. And I didn't have to rely on a label or something, because I know so many people that they were on a label and then they get dropped by them. And then they're kind of a washed up star now because they got thrown off their label. And I've never had to go through that. And I can keep experimenting and developing.
Yeah.
So that's the exciting thing about doing it this way.
If you guys are just joining us right now, we're here live with Luanne Hunt. We're talking about her early beginnings. Before we get into, to today's music and what is going on, from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, doing folk music and even sometimes country, it seems as if those years you had to be involved with the community to know the community. You didn't know, like, it sometimes even still to this day, and shout out to NPR, because NPR is still playing folk, and still showing, what people believe is almost a dying genre, but it's not. It's alive and well selling out places, and we seeing a lot of kids are involved in folk now. But your early years, there had to be something going on where it's like, you got to switch this up. You can't do it with the folk. Did you stay on track with the genre? Was it a first love? Because the 90s to early 2000s, I don't even believe in other communities, people even believe folk was still going on.
No, but I knew that was a hurdle as far as trying to get the music in the commercial world. But folk was my heart. That's where I started. To this day, I still love folk more than anything. And I just wanted to make the best folk music ever. When I did the Breaking Through album, I got a phone call when I was recording that album. Some lady had found manufacturing automation information online, and she got a hold of me and she wanted to sign me. She was starting a small record label. And I said, well, I'm working on this album. And she's like, great, I can't wait to hear it and we'll promote it like heck. And so I sent it to her when it was done. And she called me one night and she said, it's a masterpiece,
Wow.
And I felt that way about it. And Steve felt like that. And he said, this may be the best folk album ever made. He's like, and Steve was a music guy. I mean, he knew all the folk acts from the 60s and 70s. And he was just enamored with this thing because it was cool in the way that it had that folk sensibility, but it also had this little modern twist on it as well. So it made it unique. It was like a sound I brought that no one else had. And the songs were great. The songs were just,
that's amazing.
Beyond.
I'm so happy that you still love your music.
I do.
People who are in the unsigned world, regardless of the genres, that's some pastime. That you just leave it there, or that was a different chapter of my life. But these are real chapters of your life, right?
I'm proud of it all. But I never feel like stuff that I did in the past isn't as good as what I'm doing now. I feel like I put my heart and soul into everything that I did. And a lot of it's just different because I've experimented. I've moved around, not so much out of the folk genre, but adding to it in different unique ways.
Yeah.
So I love listening to it. In fact, I miss the CDs because I always had all my CDs in the car from all the albums I'd done. And when I was driving anywhere, I just listened to them. And now it's all you have to go hook up the Bluetooth and find it on Amazon or Spotify. And it's just a pain. So consequently, I don't listen to my music as much as I used to. But none of the cars now have CD players.
None. Oh, believe it or not, I'm still getting artists giving me CDs, and I'm like, I know I got a CD drive somewhere. I know I do, but you got to go with this modern day, thing where you gotta, you have to serve the people. It's a service. You have to serve.
So with the program,
So one of your latest videos of the Vice, is out right now. I'll drop it in the chat for those who are going to go and subscribe and comment, right? People in the chat. Thank you. What's this song about before I play it for everyone?
Well, and this was from my demo album in 1994 and 95.
Wow.
And Steve wrote it, my late husband, and he loved gambling. Although he wasn't a big risk taker. He bet little bits of money, but he loved
$2.
Vegas. He loved the environment, And so he wrote the song about this lonely gambler who basically did it for a living, and he traveled everywhere, and he gets this rush and this high from when he, winning and all this. And it's a beautiful story. So the version that we had initially, I always loved it. I mean, the song just spoke to me from the beginning. I don't know why. It's just such a beautiful song. But it was called He's in Paradise with a Pair of Dice. And it was kind of a corny little title, and I think back then people thought, oh, what a novelty song.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, that sounds corny, but the song is not. The song is very deep, very emotional. And I decided, since I was celebrating my 30th year in the business and I was doing an album to commemorate it, that I would do a song from that first demo album. And of course I chose that song, The Vice. I retitled it, and I wound up writing some new lyrics to make the song a little bit more visual.
Yeah.
And I think it strengthened it a lot. I still kept the hook, He's in Paradise with a Paradise, but now it sounds beautiful and poetic as opposed to, kind of corny or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so excited that I did it, because you've heard it. It's all stripped down. There's just a keyboard and a solo violin, and it's beautiful.
It is. And this is what it is right now. Luanne Hunt, The Vice, on QSJRadio.com.
He makes his living by playing with chance. It's what he'll do till he dies. Sometimes he loses and sometimes he wins. Says there is no better high. He's in paradise with a pair of dice. The craps table calls him by name. When he's rolling the bones, he feels right at home. Few others can make such a claim. He's the king of clubs, or so he's been dubbed, in Vegas and Reno and Jean. Travels alone, but is very well known, and typically orders Jim Beam. He plays the percentages day after day. He's good and he likes to boast, but out in the desert, alone on the road, he usually feels like a ghost. He's in paradise with a pair of dice. The craps table calls him by name. When he's rolling the bone, he feels right at home. Few others can make such a claim. He's the king of clubs, or so he's been dubbed, in Vegas and Reno and Jean. Travels alone, but is very well known, and typically orders Jim Beam. Gambling's his life, so of course there's no wife, but there have been plenty of flings. They can't compete with a flush. Man, it gives him a rush, like he could do anything. When he's rolling the bones, he feels right at home. Few others can make such a claim. He's the king of love, or so he's been dubbed in Vegas.
Luanne Hunt, Device on QSJRadio.com. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song.
Thank you. I can tell some of the lyric changes. It was as if,
You were having your giggles with your late husband. I can tell. Like, hey, which is great, and also hard, isn't it? Like I don't know how, I know grief is hard for me. I don't know how it is for you.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Like, I can tell that this song, you tried to keep some giggles in there. But I can also tell that some of it was a little hard for you to do. How was Device a kind of a tribute to him as well, and not only to your 30 years in the business, but there's some lyrics in there that's very, very deep, very, very serious, and
yes,
oh my, and crazy. So, was it hard for you to change the lyrics, not only just for the visual, but the context of some of these lyrics? It's almost as if you let us into some of your inside jokes with.
Well, I didn't have a problem changing the lyrics, and a lot of times when he would write songs for me, I would say, I think you could find a stronger word here or something, because sometimes you get like a throwaway rhyme and you just use the word because it rhymes. But if you dig deep, you can find a better word and you can find a better visual. And he was okay with me doing that. So I don't feel like it was hard. And in fact, I think he would love the changes and be thrilled at the way this turned out, because now it actually comes across the way it was intended. He did not mean for the song to be humorous, even though it has that feeling sometimes of certain things. But I think it just runs the gamut of emotions. I mean, it makes you laugh. It's very poignant. It makes you feel sad at times for this person who just gave up everything, even love, for this passion. It makes you just think. So Steve when he spoke, he didn't really express himself very deep. But he was a writer, he was a journalist, and he was a songwriter. So he was able to channel those feelings that he had deep down in his music that he wrote. And it would always sort of stun me, because I'm thinking, who is this guy and what'd you do with my husband?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't that deep, But then he'd write these things that were so profound, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable.
If you guys are just tuning in, we have Luanne Hunt. We're talking to her about her current album, Miles and Milestones, and
Miles and Memories.
Miles and Memory. Excuse me. We're just.
That's okay.
I'm just in the lyrics right now, and a lot of this is her celebrating how long she has been doing this. Now, we talked earlier, and you spoke earlier about there were certain times where things were easy, and even though the music was hard to do and hard to produce, things were easy. Those hard copies of cassettes and CDs and just being able to throw a video together and not it be so HD, because it didn't need to be. You just needed to just throw something together. So because people learn visually, that's what I'm gonna call it.
Right.
And but nowadays it's all online. Social media has it's it's basically an adaptation to people's lives now. It's not something that really goes away. I thought it was a phase when MySpace started phasing away, but it's not. Um, but it's helped the career. It's helped you reach areas that you haven't even visited yet. How has that social media, how did you adapt to that? Because you nonchalantly, you was like, yeah, I just threw the album on Spotify. Like, cause this is second nature now, right? So it's like, yeah, I just did that. But when it comes to the social media thing, that's very different than just throwing your song somewhere where someone can listen it to. Social media is basically like an electronic version of you, and sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Like, how have you transitioned this as an artist versus a human being?
I was online right when this was all starting to take off with independent artists. So there weren't many of us in the beginning. And I learned the ropes back then, just having to get on the internet and figure out, how do I promote my music? How do I use social media? I took a lot of online courses, talked to a lot of people, and just figured it out. I'm kind of that way with everything. I just like to learn, and I'm willing to adapt to whatever is going on. And so I thought, well, if this is the way it's going to be, then I'm going to learn how to navigate the waters of this. And I did in a lot of different ways. And one of the greatest things that this technology has done was allowed me to connect with people from all over the world and with fans. I had a guy, after I released my 2007 album, I had a song on there called I Believe in You. And this guy, his name was Vince, and he was from England. He's since passed away, but somehow he heard my music and he got in touch with me, and he said that somehow he was suicidal and he heard my song and it stopped him from taking
Wow.
his own life.
Wow.
And then he became just such a supportive person in my life with everything that I did. And I thought, here he is in England and I'm here in the States. And I mean, the technology made this possible. So, and that happened with some other people too, where they were somewhere else. I co-wrote a song with some guys in the UK, a Christmas song. And I mean, I love the song. I think it just turned out amazing, but I'm thinking I'm co-writing with people in the UK because of technology. So for me, it was not really hard to adapt because it was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I could already tell that you was like, you seen a whole bunch of things change up. You seen from, like we'll go to CD Baby, right? And then we'll go to like SoundCloud, and then we'll go to, it was SoundClick actually was first, and then Reverb Nation, which I really thought Reverb was kind of like, it's still around. It's still ticking. There's a lot of great information for unsigned artists on there. For those, I'm bringing this stuff up because some of these things are right in front of you. So as an unsigned artist, you really didn't need to knock to Nashville anymore. Right. You basically had it in your hands. Created tours, I'm sure, places that you were going to perform through the internet, because you had to find who was doing what, because you had to find the community. You had to find who was willing to take in a folk artist, right? And so many things. So you've been praised, reviewed, everything, so much in your career. I think you're a Hall of Famer now. Shout out to Joyzy Music Awards. For people who don't know, that's a very serious music award nomination, even just because it's for the unsigned. And if you're not really involved in the unsigned, you really need to understand. We're not talking about your local promoter creating something and then going to like the mall to get you a trophy. We're talking about people with context and a lot of backing. But one of these major kind of reviews that you got was, and it's crazy during the time where some of these individuals that you have been compared to or referenced to are kind of these artists that should have started independent. But let me get to this quote right here. One, listen to Luanne Hunt, and you won't be able to take Taylor Swift and Carrie Underwood seriously anymore. Now, I know it's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And Jamsphere magazine said that. Now, for those that, let me reference this back. Taylor Swift had to reinvent everything so she can keep rights to herself. Now, this is not about Taylor Swift and anything like that. If you guys want to go ahead and check that out, go ahead and check that out. But as an unsigned artist, you did not have to deal with redoing your whole career just to save, what was basically your intellectual property. Can you please just somebody who's been doing this so long and has been writing and has so many credits and, still in the room with a lot of legends and, quote unquote, the washed up ones because, they got, whatever their little history. Can you please tell the unsigned artist how much benefit you have for not signing a deal somewhere?
Yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't go after that. And you really do have to sell your soul to it. And I know a lot of people don't believe that or take that seriously. And there's different ways to sell your soul, but you do have to. And when that industry is done with you, you are done, completely done. And that's why you'll see a lot of these old stars, they're hawking cookbooks or exercise programs or clothing lines and stuff because they're done for. And they've been living a certain lifestyle and now they have to pay for it because the record label money isn't rolling in. So the other aspect of it is that these labels are controlling everything that you do and the music that you make. So if you don't mind that and becoming what their vision is of you, then I guess it's okay. But I know most true artists, they don't want anything to do with that. They want to follow their own creative path. And there's nothing worse than getting locked into a situation where now this label is saying, you have to sing this song this way. You have to wear this, present your image like that. You're just their puppet now. So for me, yes, it's been hard. Yes, I've had to persevere. And let me tell you what, I have spent a lot of money. And it's not like I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And it's not like my husband had a job where he was making a lot of money. But I budgeted, I saved, I was a journalist. So a lot of the money that I made from that line of work, I put into the music. But man, I feel like every penny was worth it because not only did I get to make incredible music, but I think about the experiences that I've had. And that's what independent artists have to realize. Life is about the experience. And if you are having these experiences where you're standing there and you're just in awe of whatever you're doing or whoever's playing, you have to stay in the moment of that and savor those moments because that's what you're going to have at the end of it all. And even the major artists, it's the truth for them too. It's just about their experience,
Yeah.
And then define what you want out of it. Define it to where you're 100% sure that this is your goal. This is what you want to manifest. And don't lose that vision. Keep it up and know that you have the power to do it and you don't have to rely on anybody else. And it's better that you don't rely on them because of what I just said. So that's the advice that I would give these young people.
You know, I've been doing this thing here for a long time. And I have come across a lot of musicians, a lot of artists. The main goal is I don't want to use the word now, but I'm going to weird. The goal is weird. It is to be someone's property, right? Like that is, it's not making sense to me. You have your own timeline, 24 albums in 30 years. I can't even get some of these young guys who have the technology basically handed to them in the mall. All right. Where a lot of people had to learn this stuff. And, I can't get 24 songs out of them in 24 weeks, which whatever. But there's a lot of hardworking people out there. And, so now we're at 30. We're at 30 years. Miles and Memories is taking off. Number 1 in Iceland. Going in. I mean, what are we expecting from Luanne in the next couple of years? Like, is it almost over? Do you got one more? Because this is 7. This is considered an EP, but you know, it's an album. It's very well written and thought out. But what's next?
I'm going to continue making music. In fact, I'm almost done writing songs for my 25th album. I haven't started producing it yet, but I have one more song to write for that project. And so soon I'll be starting the process for that. I'm excited because I'm always trying to figure out a way to push the envelope and do something a little different. And, you know, I like comedy. There was a couple albums ago, I recorded an album called Life Ain't No Picnic. And I wrote this song called How the Curtains Blow. And it's about this couple that my fiance and I know that they were when I say flaunting, they were flaunting their relationship on social media.
Oh, man.
And it was just every day over how happy they are. They're this, they're that. Well, this went on and they got married. And of course, this was the love story of the century. And then all of a sudden one day, the guy puts this post up on his page and it says, "Please pray for me. My wife threw me in jail," you know, and they had this public breakup, you know, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was sad, but it was hilarious because the way they flaunted it, you know. So anyway, I wrote this song called How the Curtains Blow, and it's really funny. It's a really funny song. It's kind of bluesy, a little jazzy and stuff, but it's cute. And I like that kind of stuff once in a while. So for this next album, I just wrote a song called The Crazy Buffet.
Wait, hold on. Because if you hear Luanne, she's talking smack about things. But I just saw an Instagram post, which I'm not going to post it right here. But if you guys go check out the Instagram post and the Facebook post, Luanne is flaunting her relationship as well, which is great because you found love again. All right.
Right.
And which is amazing. And, but, oh, don't post another pic. I'm going to be in the comments, but now you're the one that's flaunting the relationship, but not too much. It's still kind of private.
These people were, I mean, it was just overkill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
overkill.
Definitely hate.
It was, and it wasn't even, it didn't even dawn on me, what they were doing until that post came up about, the wife threw him in jail. Because it was, and people were shattered. There was like hundreds of comments on this post. What happened? What happened? And it was just unbelievable. And they went and he was just slaughtering her verbally on his social media.
Wow.
And he went from like, she's the greatest thing that God ever gave to mankind to she's a witch, she's this, she's that, And so it was just, they were both like, attention seekers,
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say, oh, I found love or whatever, and here's me and my whatever. But they were just, it was all about
like
the
everything,
attention.
everything, like food and here, we're there, and
Yeah,
everywhere.
it was overkill, So.
It is so much now, though. It's almost as if it is the same. And some people say, and I do believe it, that if you're showing that you're happy on the outside, you probably are only happy on the outside. And I heard that on a lyric from one of my favorite artists. But let's get into another song here. And this one is it's kind of one of the loudest songs, and I mean that because of so much going on, but the title is not matching this song, which is Common Sorrows, right? What's going on with Common Sorrows, and why'd you fit it in to this album?
Well, my sister and I were never super close as kids. We're 5 years in age. She's younger than me. But as adults, we've carved out a pretty nice relationship. And of course, it's been long distance because I was in California, she was in Pennsylvania. And, it's been a nice relationship. And then when my husband died, she came out to California, helped me out a little bit. She was so kind, so everything's been going great, right? So last summer, Jim and I, my fiance, we went to visit her.
Yeah.
And it was we were having a great time. And then it was like the second to the last day that we were there, we went to lunch. And Jim had mentioned about some of these crazy liberal laws in California, like you can steal up to $950 out there and you don't get anything. Like,
wow.
It's okay, right?
Yeah.
So he brings this up at lunch, because it bugs him. Like, how can they, justify stealing, right? And all these stores are closing, these mom and pops because of it. And my sister started calling him a liar and everything. And he said, I'm not lying. You can look this up. You can just Google this and you'll see.
Yeah.
Well, she just got out of control. And
wow.
She looked at me and she said, you don't want to end your vacation this way, Luanne. And I'm thinking,
oh no,
what is she talking about? And I said to her, well, do you agree with this? Do you agree that that's okay? And she just got up and left the restaurant and cut me out of her life completely.
Wow.
I was devastated. Like the next day we were supposed to get together and have a barbecue. She never showed up. She cut me off Facebook, off of her phone. So of course I wrote a song called Common Sorrows. We grew up in this really tumultuous situation as kids. It was very violent in the home. And, we'd spend our nights a lot of times at the top of the stairs while my mom and my stepfather were going at it downstairs, fighting, and he'd be wrecking the house and she'd be clinging to me, shaking, terrified, and I'd comfort her. And so, the song is about like, don't you remember that we share this bond, right? Hey, even if you think we don't have a lot in common or whatever, we have our past in common. No one in the world but us went through this. And I just wanted to make that statement because I do love her and it is unconditional. And I would never, even in a million years, dream of cutting her out. And I don't even know what I did. It's like, what did I do?
It's the new guy's fault. It's always the new guy's fault, man.
I mean, Jim was polite. Jim is a really nice person, and he was so polite, and he tried to stay out of our way because he wanted me to have time with my sister. And he didn't say in fact, he wasn't as gregarious as he usually is because he wanted me to just have the time with her. So he didn't do a thing and I didn't do a thing. And we're like, what is going on? So, but the song is kind of, I guess you could think of it as therapy for me in writing that.
It's amazing. Some people don't put their family issues on unless they have kind of like an unforgiving way. So to bring back the past here in this song, that is already deep as it is. But here it is for those who don't know. Common Sorrows, Luanne Hunt on QSJRadio.com. Definitely will drop a link for you guys here. You should go to luannehunt.com. Sure you guys go over there and give some love to Luanne. She's been very, very transparent with us, and I really appreciate that. No sugarcoating. And that's probably the best thing about being an unsigned artist. You don't really have to worry about anything. Like there's no, there's kind of an image, kind of people that look up to you, kind of, situations. I really do hope that the situation with you and your sis does get better. But we all know what kind of conversations we're not supposed to have at dinner. We know, that, and, I try so hard not to bring up like grayness in my hair. Like I try not to do that because it's hard. It's hard, especially, you got the LA life going on. You got, and she's out there in Pennsylvania where I know a lot of people in Pennsylvania and they can change their minds in 3 months and they do that. But I really hope that situation gets better. Now, talking about the 25th album and all that, if you guys didn't know, we're here talking about the 24th album. She's already looking into the future and talking about the 25th album. and that is going to be amazing to hear. Now, I know that this is a primary thing for you, and there's been a lot of bumps in the road, and that car has not stopped running. So, shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
Definitely have so many accolades. It's amazing to have you here. And such a pleasure. Now, there is this thing that happens when you're this seasoned in the business. And this thing that happens is you come across a lot of new artists, new aspiring artists, some of them which are having their goals. They take this maybe as a joke. The ones who are very too serious, too analytical, but I know someone had to sit down and say, Luanne, how do I do this? And if you had some sort of advice for someone who just started, or they're just, I'm not talking about the 1 or 2 year old artist, because you got to do this for like 5 years in order to know if you like this or not, because some of this stuff, like, you got to wait till the income tax comes just to do certain things, and which is fine. It's okay. I do the same thing, but the advice that you would give for an artist that is just tuning in, someone who is just tuning in into your career now, what advice would you give them?
First of all, I think you have to define why you're doing. Are you doing it because you've been watching American Idol since you were 2 and you see them get all the attention and some of them get fame and fortune and you want it? Are you doing it for that reason? Or are you doing it because it picked you, you didn't pick it, and you're willing to stay the course no matter what you encounter? Because I think a lot of people, they see the glitz and the glamour on the outside of things, like with the Taylor Swifts in the world, and they think, wow, I want that lifestyle. But that shouldn't be why you're doing it. The music should take precedence over everything. I mean, even when I make music, I want the song to be the star, not me. I'm not trying to do anything with my voice so people, oh, she's a great singer, I mean, I'm not looking for attention. I want the art to speak for itself. And I want the art to be so high that when you look back on it, you're like, wow, I gave it my all and I put everything in it and it's heavenly, and that should be the motivation behind it all. Now, if it catches the ear of somebody who can help you, great. But if not, are you going to be satisfied with just making great art? And that's the question that has to be answered. Because if you're not going to be satisfied with making great art, you never will make it, and you'll give up at a certain point, because you'll say, oh, well, nothing's happening. I need to change directions.
Yeah.
So I'm a real champion for the art. And I think that's why I've been here for 30 years.
And my question, if I was that individual band or group, how do you know?
How do you know if it's that good? Or
no, like, how do you know? Like, when did you know this was what you were going to do for as long as you can?
I think it was a gradual knowing, because I started out and it was a lot of fun in the beginning, because suddenly, my husband's writing these songs that are just off the chains great. And I never expected that. And it was like, yeah, let's record them and let's have fun. But I think after I started writing, I got a passion for songwriting and for recording. I love the studio. And the more I did it, the more committed to it I was, because I realized that it was like school. It was ongoing school. I would learn, I would grow, I would perfect my craft. And there's a certain point when you say, I'm going to be in here when I'm 90 if I can, because I love it so much and I'm so committed to it. And I'm not doing it, like I said, for the attention. Like that album I told you about, Season of Grace, it is probably my finest work, and I never even promoted it. But when I listen to it, I'm just like, man, look how far I came from the beginning. And I've just put everything I've got into it, all my financial resources, my heart, my soul, my time, and there's a satisfaction out of that you can't get if somebody hands it to you or if it comes too quick.
Luanne Hunt, everyone. LuanneHunt.com.
Thank you, everyone who's been watching us. Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. Those who are listening right now to RadioRadio.com and actually the Radio app
on Apple and Android. Luanne Hunt can be found everywhere, platforms everywhere. But if you really want to get direct, please make sure you hit up Luanne Hunt at luannehunt.com. It's been a very, very big pleasure to listen to you talk about the history, talk about so much, very, 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 very serious moments. And I'm just bugging over this 25th album that's coming. Like, what are we talking about? Like, oh my God. And please make sure you guys go to Instagram or Facebook and comment on the pictures and say, I see you flossing. I see you flaunting. Oh, I'm so glad that you found love again. I know that is an amazing thing. And fiance does sound really good, so that means it's close. And
yeah. And you know what? We are just so simpatico, and we have been from the beginning, but coming from our backgrounds, we have had to overcome a lot together, and we've hung in there. It has not been, all flowers and champagne, I mean, it's really been a challenge. Now we've been together 4 years, and so we're sort of now in the swing of each other, but it took a long time. But I think from the get-go, we had this respect and this love and this connection, and it was like, we're just going to keep pressing on no matter what and see where this goes, because it did get hard at times, believe me.
I can imagine. It's a lot to get used to, especially new things.
Yeah.